Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making millions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might just sell credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/hidden. Protect yourself now at aura.com/hidden.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. On the afternoon of March 25th, 1911, a fire broke out on the 8th floor of the Ash Building in Lower Manhattan. It was a Saturday. The Triangle Waist Company, one of New York's largest garment manufacturers, had kept its workers in that afternoon to meet orders. The fire spread to the ninth and 10th floors. It burned for 18 minutes. When it was over, 146 people were dead. Most of them were young women. Most of them were immigrants. And most of them were between the ages of 14 and 23. They died because the exit doors on the ninth floor had been locked. The owners locked them to prevent theft, to prevent unauthorized breaks, to control their workers with the completeness that the Gilded Age garment industry considered its natural prerogative. The doors were locked. The workers could not get out. And New York City, and eventually the United States, would never be quite the same. Our history brief today covers some recent history news. A quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, I've got the campaign brief ready, built from last quarter's data and the competitive landscape.
Approved. Oh, agents, where would we be without you?
Somewhere with a lot more tabs open.
Create your first Monday agent in minutes at monday.com.
This day in history. On August 18th, 1920, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified, guaranteeing women the right to vote nationwide after decades of determined activism by the suffrage movement. On August 18th, 1227, Genghis Khan died during his final military campaign. By the time of his death, he had forged the largest continuous land empire in history, reshaping Eurasia for centuries to come. Story of the day. To understand what Triangle was, you have to understand the garment industry that existed at the time. New York was the garment capital of the world. The Lower East Side and Washington Square area were packed with factories, loft buildings full of workers producing the shirtwaists, blouses, and clothing that American consumers were buying in growing quantities. The workforce was overwhelmingly immigrant: Jewish women from Eastern Europe, Italian women from Southern Italy, young people who had arrived in America with almost nothing and found in the garment factories work that was available and accessible even to those who spoke no English. The conditions were what the industry chose to make them: long hours, 52 to 59 hours a week standard; low pay, $7 to $12 a week for work that required skill and speed; no breaks that were not controlled; no exits that were not monitored. The Triangle Waste Company, owned by Max Blank and Isaac Harris, was not exceptional in its treatment of workers. It was quite typical, actually. It was also one of the largest, with approximately 500 workers on 3 floors of the 10-story building. The fire started on the 8th floor, probably from a discarded cigarette or match in a bin of fabric scraps. The building had no sprinkler system. It had one fire escape, a rickety external structure that buckled and collapsed under the weight of workers trying to use it, sending people to their deaths in the alley below. It had a freight elevator that made a few trips before the operator could no longer safely continue. It had exit doors on the 9th floor, the critical floor, that were locked. Workers on the 8th floor called up to warn the 9th. The call did not go through. Workers on the 10th floor, where the owners and managers worked, received the warning and made it to the roof. Workers on the 9th floor received nothing. They discovered the fire themselves, in the worst possible way, when the smoke began to fill the room. What followed on the 9th floor has been reconstructed from the testimony of survivors, witnesses on the street below, and the firefighters who arrived to find a scene they could not adequately address. The fire department's ladders reached only to the 6th floor. The safety nets they stretched were torn through by the impact of people falling. People gathered at the windows. Some tied fabric together and tried to lower themselves. Some just jumped. The people on the sidewalk below watched. 23-year-old Celia Saltz was pulled back from the window ledge by a coworker and survived. Others were not pulled back. Firefighters and bystanders on the street later testified that they counted the falling bodies, and they lost count. In 18 minutes, 146 people died in the fire, in the smoke, falling from the windows, in the collapsed fire escape, at the locked doors. The youngest victim was 14 years old. The owners, Blank and Harris, were indicted for manslaughter. The trial began in December of 1911. The prosecution needed to prove that the owners knew that exit doors were locked at the time of the fire. The defense produced witnesses who said the doors had been open. The jury acquitted. Both men were found not guilty. The verdict produced one of the most famous moments in the history of American labor. Rose Schneiderman, the labor organizer who had been trying to unionize the garment workers before the fire, spoke at a memorial meeting at the Metropolitan Opera House 3 weeks after the fire. Her words have been quoted ever since, and they deserve to be said in full here. She said, "I would be a traitor to those poor burned bodies if I were to come here to talk good fellowship. We have tried, you good people of the public, and we have found you waiting." She said the workers did not need the sympathy of the public. She said that they needed the fire to spur into action the workers of the country. And she was right. What Triangle produced in outrage, in organizing, and in legislation was the most significant expansion of workers' protections in American history up to that point. The New York State Factory Investigating Commission, established in the fire's aftermath, conducted the most comprehensive investigation of industrial working conditions ever undertaken in the United States. Its findings were used to pass 36 new labor laws in just 4 years. Fire safety requirements, maximum work hours, restrictions of child labor, mandatory fire exits, unlocked sprinkler systems in buildings above a certain height. The commissioners included a young state assemblyman named Al Smith and a young state senator named Robert Wagner, both of whom carried the lessons of Triangle into their subsequent careers and into the New Deal legislation of the 1930s. Frances Perkins, who witnessed the fire from the street, watched workers jump, and never forgot what she saw. became Franklin Roosevelt's Secretary of Labor in 1933, the first woman ever to serve in the United States cabinet. She spent her tenure building the federal labor protections that Triangle had made necessary. The Fair Labor Standards Act, the Social Security Act, the occupational safety framework that governs American workplaces to this day. All of it has roots in the ninth floor of the Ash Building on March 25, 1911. Blank and Harris were later sued in civil court by the families of 23 victims. They settled for $75 per victim. Their insurance company paid them $60,000 more than their losses. They were subsequently caught multiple times locking the doors of their next factory. They were fined $20 each time. The History Brief. Today, on some history news, we're talking about a shipwreck that's often described as one of the darkest survival stories in history. It actually has everything: murder, mutiny, slavery, mass executions, and now, nearly 400 years later, it's teaching historians something completely unexpected about global trade. According to reporting from the Smithsonian Magazine, new research on the wreck of Batavia, a Dutch East India Company ship that sank off the coast of Western Australia in 1629, has revealed that its cargo reflects an astonishingly sophisticated international supply chain operating centuries before the Industrial Revolution. But first, let's talk about the ship. The Batavia left the Netherlands in 1628 on its maiden voyage to what is now Indonesia, the headquarters of the Dutch East India Company in Asia. On board were more than 340 passengers and crew, along with silver coins, trade goods, and construction materials intended for the growing Dutch colonial capital. The voyage ended in disaster. In June of 1629, the ship struck a coral reef in the Houtman Islands of the western coast of Australia. Many survived the wreck. Unfortunately, that was only the beginning. With the ship stranded, the commander sailed to Batavia, modern day Jakarta, to seek help, leaving hundreds of survivors behind. In his absence, a failed mutineer named Geronimus Cornelius seized control. Over the following weeks, he and his followers murdered approximately 125 men, women, and children in an attempt to eliminate anyone who might challenge their authority before a rescue ship arrived. Others were enslaved or forced into submission. It's widely regarded as one of the bloodiest mutinies in maritime history. Eventually, the rescue vessel returned. The mutineers were captured. Several were executed. And the horrifying story became one of Australia's most infamous historical episodes. So, what does that have to do with archaeology? Well, the answer lies beneath the waves. Among the cargo resting on the seabed were massive carved sandstone blocks, believed to have been intended for the construction of a monumental gateway or portico in Batavia. For decades, archaeologists wondered where these stones had come from. Now, using microscopic zircon crystals preserved inside the sandstone, essentially geological fingerprints, researchers have traced the blocks to multiple quarries in what is now Germany, including sites nearly 90 miles apart. That means the Dutch East India Company wasn't simply buying stone from one location, it was sourcing materials from different regions, transporting them across Europe to a central hub, likely Amsterdam, and then assembling the shipment there, and then sending it halfway around the world to Southeast Asia. In the early 1600s, researchers described the operation as a surprisingly sophisticated supply chain that demonstrates just how organized global commerce had already become during the dawn of modern capitalism. It's easy to think of globalization as a modern phenomenon, but long before airplanes, shipping containers, or the internet, companies like the Dutch East India Company were coordinating international logistics on an astonishing scale. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you're enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, where we have different videos and series that are not part of this main feed. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.
Jerry is changing the way people think about car insurance. For people who like to save or just shop smarter, that change already happened. With Jerry, you're not locked into a policy that auto-renews. Reshop anytime by comparing up to 20 quotes side by side and switch, all in the app. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry save over $1,300 a year on average. You'll probably be the first one you know to use it, which makes you the smartest friend in the group. Download Jerry today.